Hi, so we're reading, sometimes the light looks like it's on it too much, An Open Heart by the Dalai Lama. And we're on page 19, and I'm going to read it. So, by recognizing that the mind is malleable, we can bring about changes to our attitudes by using different thought processes. If we are behaving arrogantly, we can use the thought processes I've just described. If it's just talking about don't become demoralized, remember your potential and your opportunities. And if you become arrogant, remember that he uses understanding how lucky he is to stop himself becoming arrogant. Right, so I've just described, we are overwhelmed by a sense of hopelessness or depression. We should grasp every opportunity to improve our situation, and this is very helpful. Human emotions are very powerful and sometimes overwhelm us. This can lead to disasters. Another important practice in training our minds involves distancing ourselves from strong emotions before they arise in us. For example, when we feel anger or hatred, we might think, yes, now anger is bringing me more energy, more decisiveness, swifter reactions. However, when you look closely, you can see that the energy brought about by negative emotions is essentially blind. We find that instead of bringing the thoughtful progress, there are many unfortunate repercussions. I doubt whether the energy brought about by negative emotion is really useful. Instead, we should analyze the situation very carefully and then, with clarity and objectivity, determine that countermeasures are called for. You see, I'm not in complete agreement with that. I believe that anger, when it arises in an unconscious mind like mine, is often a doorway for me to realise that I am not looking after my boundaries, I'm not being confident, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling vulnerable. So if anger arises in me, but then I'm recovering from PTSD, then it's because I'm triggered, there's something happening. So although I try not to necessarily act on the anger, because I do understand that nobody wants to deal with a raging nutter, I do not accept that we should, sometimes you have to act on anger to become healthy, but obviously not so much so that you completely wreck your own life. But if you're in PTSD, for example, you're not in a situation where you can't choose to not experience anger, and you have to find a way of using that anger to help you heal. So yeah, I just don't think that Buddhism is necessarily a panacea for mental health. I think as a group, as a whole thing, from all the different angles, can help you work on it though. But I get the point. If you're going around screaming and shouting, it's not good. Try not to do it. The conviction I must do something can give you a powerful sense of purpose. I believe this I believe is the basis of a healthier, more useful, productive energy. I do agree with him. My cat, you come to shout at me while I'm reading. Oh, thank you. If someone treats us unjustly, we must first analyse the situation. If we feel we can bear the injustice, if the negative consequences of doing so are not too great, then I think it is best to accept it. However, if in our judgment... Cat, what are you doing? However, if in our judgment reached with clarity and awareness, we are led to the conclusion that acceptance would bring greater negative consequences, then we must take the appropriate countermeasures. This conclusion should be reached on the basis of clear awareness of the situation and not as a result of anger. I think that anger and hatred actually cause more harm to us than the person responsible for our problem. Is this helping, Emma? Jesus. Yes, I know, but I'm in the middle of reading something. Thanks for your help, Emma. Imagine that your neighbour hates you and is always creating problems for you. If you lose your temper and develop hatred towards him, your digestion is harmed, your sound sleep goes, and you have to start using tranquilizers and sleeping pills. Jesus, you must have had some proper neighbours in the past. You then have to increase the dosages of these, which harms your body. Your mood is affected. As a result, your old friends hesitate to visit you. You gradually get more white hair and wrinkles, and you may eventually develop a more serious health problem. Then your neighbour is really happy. Without having inflicted any physical harm, he has fulfilled his wish. What are you doing? Last time you did that, you fell off. Get away from there. If, in spite of his injustices, you remain calm, happy, and peaceful, your health remains strong, you continue to be joyful, and more friends come to visit you. Your life becomes more successful. This really brings about worry in your neighbour's mind. I think that this is the wise way to inflict harm on your neighbour. I do not mean this as a joke. Okay, sorry. I have a certain amount of experience here. In spite of some very unfortunate circumstances, I usually remain calm with a settled peace of mind. I think this is very useful. You must not consider tolerance and patience to be signs of weakness. I consider them signs of strength. Well, he's definitely got a point. When we are faced with an enemy, a person or a group of people wishing us harm, we can view this as an opportunity to develop patience and tolerance. We need these qualities. They are useful to us, and I do agree with that. And the only occasion we have to develop them is when we are challenged by an enemy. So from this point of view, our enemy is our guru, our teacher. Irrespective of their motivation, from our point of view, enemies are a very beneficial, a very blessing. I wish a group of people wishing us harm. Can't even imagine knowing that China has got it in for you. It must just be, some days it must just be scary. In general, the difficult periods of life provide the best opportunities to gain useful experiences and develop inner strength. In America, those members of the younger generation who have such an easy, comfortable life often find it difficult to face even small problems. They immediately start shouting. It is useful to reflect upon the hardships faced by the elder generation of Americans and Europeans, or those endured by your forefathers while settling this land. That's a bit okay boomer, isn't it? Because kids have got totally different sets of issues these days, but I get the general vibe of that. I'm not calling the Dalai Lama a boomer, by the way. Just think it's an understandable sort of like conclusion that the elder generation come to. I find it wrong that in our modern society we tend to reject people who have committed crimes, prisoners for example. The result is often that people themselves lose hope. They lose their sense of responsibility and discipline. This reminds me of people who've committed crimes because of PTSD, because I know from my own experience that you lose control and it comes from fear, and then you commit a crime and then to be stuck in a prison with and labelled even more is just so awful. They lose their sense of responsibility and discipline. The result is more tragedy, more suffering and more unhappiness for all. I think that it is important for us to convey a clear message to these people. You are also a part of our society. You have a future. You must, however, transform your mistakes or negative deeds, and should no longer make these mistakes. You must live responsibly as a good citizen. I also find it very sad when some, such as AIDS patients, are rejected by society. When we come across a part of society that is in a particularly miserable situation, it is a good opportunity to exercise our sense of concern, of caring and of compassion. However, I often tell people, my compassion is just empty words. The late Mother Teresa really implemented compassion. Oh, controversial. But I do get the general point. The late Mother Teresa. I don't know. I should really find out about her instead of gossiping about her. Okay, thank you.